Hey Piyush,
Hey, hi, how are you?
I'm doing a fantastic Piyush, and thank you so much for joining in today to discuss about how do we drive engagement through different channels of communication, Piyush.
Yeah, happy to be here.
And it's actually a privilege to learn from you, especially because you have worked as one of the early product managers at Flipkart, working extensively on the communication side, like for a startup which is at the heart of India with more than 300 million users, Piyush. So I'm super excited to talk to you about these things. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Excited to be here. Happy to, let's have a chat.
Sure, Piyush. So before we go deep, I would like to ask you, Piyush, what are the first principles when it comes to communicating to the end user?
There, when you think of communication, right? Think of communication more like a conversation rather than just a monologue. While at a lot of times the channels that you would use would be monologuous in nature. It will be one way, but it really helps if you are able to think it more as a conversation that you're having with a acquaintance or a person, a real human, right? So, from whatever I can, summarize or think of in a very brief manner, there are three essential things that usually comes when it comes to communicating with your own user, right? Usually, very simple, right? The user is present at some place. It can be on phone, it can be some app on other app, or maybe your own app, right? The first principle is you communicate to the user where they are. So if it means you communicate to the user through your app itself, if they're active on your app, if it means you communicate to the user through emails or SMS or WhatsApp, whatever the channels are, you have to be available. The communication has to be available at the same place where the user is there, right? The second principle, or rather than piece that actually helps a lot is whatever you're communicating, it has to be contextual and useful. Now it becomes much more important. The same this thing even becomes more important to startups or even products which your user has not used yet or it's starting to use. It's basically also ties into the principle of trust. So imagine this, right? While let's say you're talking to a friend, you're talking to a person, and
Mhm.
in the beginning you try to be highly conservative about what you speak. You have to be truthful. You have to make sure that what you are saying is very contextual and going to be helpful to that other person. Towards later on, start being more playful. You can actually have more wide casual conversations, but in the beginning you're trying to be much more attentive about what their needs are. So this contextual and usefulness tied with the trust factor is very important when it comes to communication. And the third thing, which I have found to be slightly overlooked but much more useful at the same time, is being consistent with your communication as well as being a bit journey level kind of communication, which means that whatever you're speaking to the user, be it any communication channel you have, it has to be consistent across multiple channels. It has to be also forward looking in the sense that if the first day you communicate about something else, the second cannot be something else altogether. So if you talk about, let's say today you're talking about apples, just for an example, tomorrow you cannot be talking about
Mhm.
oranges until you are a grocery startup, obviously. But if you're talking about apples, then maybe the next day you're talking about apple juice. Basically, the idea is you have to tie
Got it.
in your communication, take it forward.
Those were
Yeah.
amazing principles, Piyush. So the first thing which comes to my mind while thinking about a communication channel of bringing users into the app is the push notifications. So, what do you think is the purpose of push notifications, where it works, and where it fails?
Yeah, push notification is, I think, and is one of the channels which I'll say has been used, overused, underused. You can put all the adjectives that you can put off for this channel, right? Obviously, by different use different products, different apps. Initially, when let's say Apple put up their iPhone and then Android came up, Android started building other things. Push notifications was a channel which came up as something that it's something of a magic, because you essentially can, even if the user is not using your app, you essentially can use that channel for free theoretically to actually send uh, whatever you want to, or whatever talk about, whatever you want to send a communication. uh, you know Very magical. So theoretically it's your own channel, obviously within the dimensions of the operating system, let's say Android or Apple or whatsoever. But essentially talking about, give me a second here, bro. 1 second, hold on.
Sure thing. Yeah.
I'm just switching. Right. Yeah. Hey, bro. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect.
Oh, great. Oh, great.
Perfect. Sure.
So, push notification essentially, I think the most important piece of push notification is something that a product or the app which is trying to send push notifications, you own by yourself. Obviously, things are changing slightly, but theoretically, there's no charge of it. Uh, this has attracted a lot of marketers, product managers, businesses to actually use push notifications to the fullest extent possible. We can discuss examples of where they can be misused and all, right? But essentially, if you look at the importance of where they actually work a lot. So imagine a push
Mhm.
notification is, you are already a user of an app, of a product. Push notification is great in retain like getting that user back to your platform, as long as the user still has that app in his device, in his or her device, right?
Got it.
They are great in telling an update or a news. Let's say you have an event going on. Imagine this LinkedIn
Mhm.
event that
This
we
internet.
put up. Uh, Great to send. Yeah, this event is starting now, or this event is there. There's an update or news. Oh, great. The third place which they actually help out a lot is continuing the journey. We talked about consistency and journey, right? So things
Yes.
like the user did something on some channel or inside the
Mhm.
app. Now you want to let the user continue. For example, let's say if they signed up but did not put their name, or if they just logged in but forgot to put some of their profile details. Great to
Mhm.
communicate to the user. Why don't you do this? So these three places where cross communication between, let's say, what the user is doing inside, you continue the journey. It really helps is push notifications actually work. Obviously there are different other places, other needs of it, but there are certain caveats when it comes to push notifications, specifically when you start using it for all and every communication.
Mhm.
As long as they follow certain principles of what you're communicating, who you're communicating to, they are usually one of the best channels that a product or an app you can use for.
Got it. Got it, Piyush. And the last week we launched a poll to
Mm.
about 100 plus product managers in India, and on the deliverability and click-through rate of push notification, and more than 50% of them have said that they have experienced a delivery rate of less than 60%, and a CTR of less than 3%. So, why does this happen, and what are ways in which this could be tackled, Piyush?
Here, delivery rate and CTRs are entirely different beasts altogether. So let's actually talk about these separately,
Perfect. Yeah.
because the factors are different, right?
Yes.
Simply think about it like this: delivery rate is essentially, if you are trying to send a communication, a push
Mhm.
notification, and whether or not it gets delivered to the app, right?
Yes.
Uh, it's actually one of the something that how do I say? The way I look at it is essentially, if you look at the whole delivery of this notification, there's essentially three actors inside this app.
Mhm.
The first one is who is sending. Let's
Mhm.
say you are using your code to send some push notification to this site. The second is the carrier. How is it going through, right? The
Mhm.
carrier is essentially, let's say, the internet in this case. In the recent time, basically, there's an entity called FCM, which is used to
Yes.
send push notifications. And finally, the receiver is essentially the phone. So anything goes wrong in all these three things, your delivery gets impacted essentially. It's simple, right? Imagine this. Let's say you have set up some system to actually send your
Mhm.
push notifications. However, for some reason, the unique identifier that is used to send push notification is not matching with that user who you want to send it to, then it may not be updated to you. For some reason, you don't have the identifier. There's something called registration ID that actually works here, but you don't have that identifier. It will not go. You whatever you do send, it will not go. Right? Second part is your whole carrier, right? Internet and GCM part. Sorry, FCM part, right? Actually, FCM is now Firebase Cloud Messaging. It used to be called GCM earlier. GCM was actually so FCM later on came up, which replaced GCM, which is Google Cloud Messaging, because FCM you can use to
Got it.
send both Apple and Google Android. Earlier, GCM only
Understood.
handled Google Androids. So let's say FCM does not have the ID for some reason. Like you don't have a different thing, but FCM also does not have to actually contact the final device. Internet obviously is the medium through which it goes. So internet is off. Some issue with the internet, right? The push notification will not go. The final, and which is basically where most of the stuff happens, is your device. So device, the user has switched off the internet. Very common, specifically when you talk about the tier 2 tier 3 India, right? People have
Yeah.
a habit of switching off internet lest the internet goes down, the power, their data gets used up, because they're very wary of what is being used where it's not being used, right? That happens. uh, there are a lot of power saver apps that are being used, which essentially will kill your app from the background, and the push notification will not get delivered because FCM is trying to reach that, but there's no app to actually receive that notification. There is no one app active there, right?
Yes.
Imagine, then there's a lot of Chinese OEMs, where Chinese phones essentially have built their own optimization on top of pure Android, which for some purpose, like both, and we can go into details about, which basically disallow either delivery of push notifications, or they will kill the app from the background because of power saving mode to some extent, right? That will happen. So the push notification will not get delivered. There is another interesting thing, and I think we'll cover that in CTR, but I'll mention it here. Is there are certain apps, certain power saving apps, which will deliver the push notification, the
Mm-hmm.
notification there, but it will also remove it immediately. What that means is that you think you're getting delivered, but that's it. It gets delivered and it gets away. There's nothing you can do about it. The user has no way to actually see that notification, right? So these all factors essentially start impacting the delivery of the push notifications. Now you can tackle them differently rather than again and again. But I think with what had happened over time is a lot of because, as I said, right, push notification was a great channel for everyone to use. They started
Mm-hmm.
misusing it as well. So slowly and steadily, these power savers, servicing apps or OEMs has essentially built their product and going towards a place where push notification are getting debarred or not sent to the device because of, let's say, अपने earlier mistakes of products or apps, because they started sending a lots of push notifications. So this happened here. Obviously, there are a lot of things we can do about increasing delivery rate. So what I've recently found out that this Chinese OEMs, which essentially form a huge part of the next 100 million user market, or the next half billion user market, or the Bharat users, as well as the tier one market as well. They have come up with their own message delivering system in addition to, let's say, FCM.
Mm-hmm.
So using them actually would help delivery in their app, their devices. Uh, Following some best practices will make sure that your delivery rates are not impacted. So, example, you make sure that, and again, this whole delivery and CTRs will also have a very cyclic approach to it. So, if you deliver a lot of notifications, your CTR will get impacted. If your CTR gets impacted and people don't read their CTRs themselves, the if you have a very bad CTR, essentially it means that the users will be stopping their notifications to some extent. So, example, they switch off their notifications and all those sort of things, and it will in turn reduce your delivery rate as well. So, following some best practices of CTRs will actually improve your delivery rate also in the long term. The Chinese OEMs we already talked about. An interesting thing that came up and has been actually very popular recently. I'm not sure how many products are using it, but I definitely saw some vendors actually providing this is something called offline notifications. So imagine, let's say something, right? You have to send some notification to the user's device, let's say, which has to be sent tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a possibility that tomorrow half of the users will not be have internet at this point of time, or would have some issue or something, whatever happens. Now, essentially, what you do is you send a push notification today
Mm-hmm.
itself, that push notification, but you say show it at this time,
Got it.
right? And essentially, will basically that time reaches, or whenever after that time the app is live or is becomes active, the push
Mm.
notification. But this particular, strategy has something which is very powerful, but at the same time, there's something to be noted of. If you're sending this push notification, it's very difficult to cancel it out. So if you're sending it for tomorrow, that means it will show for sure. So you
You
have
cannot
to wait
cancel it.
for what you're sending. The second thing is, imagine, let's say it was a notification which had some time essence to it, that it has no need of, let's say, the notification has to be shown tomorrow morning, but there's no need for the notification to be shown after 2 hours of that.
Mhm.
So what will happen is, let's say the user has received a notification in their app, but when the app, let's open the app, let's say tomorrow evening, the notification will still show, but there's no need. Same, let's say take this LinkedIn event example, and
Yep.
the notification shows up after 5 hours. It will frustrate, by the way, to a higher extent to anyone who receives it. So what you have to understand is something called expiry. So you have to be like, offline push notifications have to be, you have to be very careful about both when to show, if you are very sure
Mhm.
about the content, as well as the expiry. So this will
Yeah.
ensure that their delivery rates extend. There are a lot of vendors there who do things on top of that to optimize it, but these principles in general would definitely help you.
Got it, Piyush. And other thing, like which I was reading about is that Android has an opt-out rate of about like 40%, and with
Yeah.
Android M getting into a double tap opt-out, and with Android 13 having a default opt-out similar to iOS. So how should PMs tackle this, or is this the end of push notifications as a channel?
Yeah, last questions first. Yes, this is a trend,
Mhm.
because again, it overuse, and then finally it's getting stable. This is a trend, and you have to live with it. But that's the part, right? That's the beauty of it. If you follow best practices, if you are actually using principles of communication, you don't need to worry about it. Right? It's about trust, right? Earlier, trust was ensured or entrusted on the app developer. Now,
Mhm.
when they realize that it's being misused, when Android and the iOS ecosystem are realizing that it's being misused, they are taking the trust back, and then you have to try and earn your trust back again. It's as simple as that. Simple, right? Uh, Imagine this. You talked about 40% opt-out rate, and I'll talk
Opt-out.
about a bit into this, right? But WhatsApp sends the maybe the highest number of push notifications in the day. Doesn't matter, right? It would not matter how many notifications you get from WhatsApp. You will not going to remove it, because it is useful at the end, right? So what happens essentially is here, so that's where this whole CTR game comes into picture, right? It's all about how do you improve CTR, as well as which will make sure that your notifications are not opted out, or for that matter, how do you get the opting of the notification, both, right? So
Hmm.
actually think of, let's actually, you talked about Android M, which is slightly future looking, so let's actually get it out of the way first, and then we talk about the other things. Android M will have an opt-in, which basically you will have to ask the user to opt-in, which is a practice which is followed by Apple, as you said, and
Yeah.
another platform which is Web Push. Same practice, right? They ask,
Hmm.
यार भेजना कि नहीं भेजना.
Correct.
Now the question is about, when do you ask the user ki send me this notification? Why do you ask? Simple. If they ask you, if you are asking the user at the right time, at the most contextual time, there is no reason why they would not give it to you. It's simple, right? If WhatsApp tomorrow asks you, do you want to receive notifications of your chats or your calls, you're not going to at the end, right? Like I
True.
just think of this. I'll give you two contrasts. Let's say you're, and I love this example because web push, this whole browser push has a very similar logic. You'll see, go on a lot of news website, and
Hmm.
immediately as soon as you land, you see this pop up saying, do you want to receive notifications? And I am not sure if, other than by mistake, I have ever said yes. Right. But the other contrast should be, let's say, you visited some Swiggy. Let's say you are ordering on Swiggy. Forget Swiggy. Swiggy is an app. But let's say you are visiting some D2C website, D2C e-commerce website, and let's say you placed an order. I'm a big fan of, for example, this great D2C product called Fool Agarbatti. They use flowers to actually make, recycle flowers to make incense sticks. Great product. But I ordered from directly from their website a lot. So now when they ask me after I ordered them, saying at the end, do you want to get notification for your order delivery? No, I don't know why I would say no, right? I want it at the end. So I'm not saying this is the right place where you ask for every app. But the way to look at it is, yeah, if you are asking user to give something, you better give something back. It has to be something that the user actually needs. If you're asking about a permission, you give the user back a permission, something in back. It's simple as that. So if you think about this valid principle, for every type of product or app, you will find places where you can ask for this permission. But
Amazing.
the major thing is, if you do that, then the whole thinking of whether using push notification as a channel to drive traffic has to slightly change. It cannot be here because I hear a lot of stories where if traffic is less for some reason, the next step is send a lot of push notifications, and you get traffic. It's not like you don't get it. But yes, this is where you want to be careful about this opt-in out. Coming to the Android 12 and this right whole dual tapping. So Android actually introduced something called push notification channels some time back. I think it was four years back, right? And that was the way out. So when they said you will have a two tap opt out, they also introduced this channels thing. And the idea about channels is that you decide, the app developer decides what are the different types of communications that you want to send to the user. So you have, let's say, offer related one communication, or you have, let's say, events related one communication, video, calls, chats, right? I think WhatsApp has 5 or 6 channels, just to give an example. And the idea is that when the user is asked, when the user does to tap, they actually first get an option to say, just mute this channel,
Got it.
not the entire channel. Say mute this channel. So that essentially means that the user will be able to just mute this channel. So you're giving a control to the user to mute that channel. So any channel which is getting overused will get muted, but you still reserve some channels for your actual purposes. So that is big Samachana. That actually brings to me a point when when a developer is setting their channels, they should make it readable and understandable. You cannot have words which don't mean anything, because then the user will just switch it off. Doesn't it? The other thing that actually comes is also about notification control. So as we move in this two tap, you talked about this, right? Apple does that. Web push has it, as well as your Android M will have that opt-in. What becomes even more important is giving the user more control about their like how they do want to receive communication. So one of the apps that I really like about it is LinkedIn. They have a very detailed section for control on communication. So they will talk about, okay, email, SMS, WhatsApp, all those channels. Like, I don't think WhatsApp there, but let's say push and all, and they will say, okay, which of these communications you want to receive, which you don't want to receive. Each of these channels, right? Which communication which you want to receive, which you don't want to receive. Prabhu, give me a second. I think there's someone on the door. Can you give me a second?
Yeah, sure. Like a load on. Yeah. So like if there are any questions, like you can drop them in the chat for us to answer it. And yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'm back. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Perfect, Piyush.
Yeah. So yeah, what I was saying was giving this control, right, helps you in two things. This essentially does one, basically it also helps the user feel that they're in control of what they're going to receive. So if the user says, don't send me on email, so you don't send on email. User says, don't send some push status certain notification, don't send. Just to be clear, there would be the usage of this particular a section of your product will not be very high. People will not use it. However, you can actually introduce or introduce this particular section at places where you think it may be important. For example, let's say you're sending a lot of push notifications. People send, like, I don't know why, but they will send. So now at some point, if you send some communication in your app or even a notification saying, you can control your notification settings. Helps. Now think long term, right? Because once you have introduced this user to a notification setting,
Mhm.
obviously you have to follow principles of communication and make sure that the settings are understandable, it cannot be confusing and all. But once you introduce the user to the settings, then when next time they feel burdened by the number of notifications that you send, there is a possibility that they will go there instead of just switching off your notifications or possibly uninstalling the app. So this is where it essentially comes back to.
Perfect, Piyush. And those are two brilliant ways which you mentioned. Like one is usage of channels, and two is also like using in-app communications, inside app communications to facilitate notification of opt-ins, which is fantastic, Piyush. So now moving on to CTR, like we have
Yeah.
a comment from Amar here, like who has asked about like what are the average and best CTRs out there.
I think you were saying before when we were chatting before this, you done some survey, right? What were the results?
The results were less than 3% to the majority of the audience, like to 50% of them, and greater than 7%, I think, like only to 20% of them, like apps like Zomato, yeah, probably, yeah. So that's how it is, Piyush, from your understanding, like, did
Yeah,
it?
see, this is all comes to comes back to the principles that we discussed earlier, right?
Yeah.
However, if I go deep into it, CTRs of 3% are obviously low. Uh, Again, as long as the data is measured correctly, obviously that is a big caveat there. But the way you should look at CTRs, again, communication is right. Key, same key. Who, like, are you being contextual and useful or not? And one
But
thing that I usually have found, one framework that I usually have found which has worked whenever I think of notifications, in fact, not just push notification, right? Any communication channel, is essentially how much you can personalize that communication.
mhm,
So you talked about Zomato, great example, right? They personalize communication by when a lot. So their push notifications will always go at, let's say, 12:30 p.m. or 1 p.m. around that time, which is like before lunch or before dinner. So the when part will make sure that you have a highly contextual and useful communication going on at the right time, right? The when. Then there comes the what. The what has two elements. The two elements of what are basically what are you saying in your communication, right?
mhm.
As well as exactly what kind of what kind of messaging and how the whole thing is looking up. That is one part, and second part is where do the user land in when they go inside. So let's say you are saying, again, taking the example of Zomato, they are very quirky in their communication. Danjo is very quirky in their communication. Swiggy does a lot of interesting community text. But that's the what. So you make it quirky, definitely do this, right? Custom notification has a trend. So let's say you can actually, some of the apps do, again, very careful because it's a two-way sword. Some of the notification apps will basically try to make custom notifications in terms of both how it looks, so images or full different color of notifications, or even the sound of the notification can be customized by the way. So now you can do this, great CTRs and all, but be careful. This is a two-way sword. If it's not very useful to the user, and if it's disturbing, it is going to go away. So take an example of this is that actually Android introduced certain notifications which have a custom view. For example, music player notification. It's a sticky
Uh-huh.
notification which has this player forward, backward, right? It's actually a custom notification which Android built for music or videos or such things because it's very useful. It's there. Now user can actually click and do a lot of things about it, but it's very custom shaped. It has custom buttons, custom image and all. Any app can do that, interestingly. the question at the end, it basically comes down to if any app can do that, why are they not using it? Because if you're not again following certain principles, that also means that you stand out in that tray. And even it's very easy to actually remove the notification
Remove.
settings control. They will just switch it off.
Yeah.
It's very easy. It's basically if you're showing up more, you show up with, if you don't show up with your best effort, you're going to get noticed and punished. Okay, so that's the third. The third part is the who. So the when, the what, and what we talked about, the uses and where the user lands. So it's not the notification is just the half part of the job. After clicking the notification, what happens is I think for the user maybe slightly less, but for a business, it's the most important part.
Got it.
You can send a, let's say, a very catchy line. I see those ads, right, which use possibly vulgar words to attract attention. You can do
Got it.
that, right? But what if the user clicks and goes ahead and finds nothing, or finds something very generic? So the most important part for your business is what comes inside when the user clicks, not what's option.
That's
And
amazing. That's great insight.
yeah, and obviously finally the who. Who are you sending it to? As much customization you can do. If you're sending, if I'm, let's say, you are from App Store, right? So if I'm sending a notification to you about some other, like if the notification has something which is not interesting to you at all, right? It's the who does not match. It's about, let's say, some other industries, some example, let's say LinkedIn has a lot of ads and all, right?
Yeah.
It will not have a CTR, right? It does not matter. So this
So true.
whole game, essentially the who, what, when, if you combine these three, the CTRs I have seen going very high.
Amazing. So secret is like combining this and engaging them. Like once they land on the real estate inside the app.
Yeah.
So yeah. So let's dissect few examples with the principles you explained to see how they are doing. Like I have found this notifications on my phone or on the internet. So let me just share my screen.
Sure.
Just a second.
We used to play this game a lot when I was on a communication platform. We used to take this notification, say, okay, this is looking good. Will this have a good CTR or a bad CTR?
Perfect. So yeah, here we go.
Zomato, right? Sorry, bro,
Yeah.
not in the mood to convince you. Still not over yesterday's loss. Khud hi dekh lo. Great example of both when and I think what. Very quirky, right? And the when, because I'm guessing this came after our loss in the cricket, right? Right. So when, and I don't see the time, but I'm guessing it's also around lunchtime or somewhere.
Yep.
So, right. So
Yep.
great example of that. Apna is our blue collar app, right, for blue collar
Yes.
workers. I think again, a couple of things that stand out a lot, right? I'm guessing when you click on this particular Apna ka notification, it will go to a chat window somewhere in the chat, right? Or possibly job apply window. So that I'm guessing. Tell me if I'm wrong. One of both of the things will work. If it's a chat, great. Even better if it actually goes to a place where the user can see some jobs very highly shortlisted for the user, because it's saying applying to jobs. So that's one. The view is great because it is copying WhatsApp. It was chat. So it's very, very, very good up. So view is great. And the image also has some significance because essentially the user is not seeing an app logo, it's seeing a person face. Now, whether that person is essentially a robot or it's a image of some employee, that's a different thing, but it is essentially showing a face.
Got it.
Slightly, you can actually think because this app is like depending on the demographic it is, towards, it may actually appeal this whole dynamically appeal for the user.
Amazing, Piyush. And like we have a question from Mridul. So let me just put it on screen. Yeah.
Okay.
How do you measure the impact, positive as well as negative, of a new push notification journey which has been started?
No, the
Is
CTRs,
it
no.
just
No, not CTRs. See, I think one of the big, again, this is where one thing that especially working in small company or big company, should always understand is everything has to go back to tie to your business metrics. So if your business metric is revenue at a certain point of time, you have to find a way to tie your communication to business metrics as well. And I think we just discussed about it, right? We can actually create a very fancy communication PN, which will lead to very good CTRs. And I can bet you that this. But two things that will happen. If the CTR for that moment will be good, but if it is not useful, contextual to the user, the user does not land to a place where they can actually find some relevant stuff, the next CTRs will go down. So you are then possibly highly, like, you would be very happy that the CTR is great, but the next day CTRs are going to go down because this older one did a very bad thing. The other thing is, yeah, I think here's it's very important to tell about ABs, right? Uh, CTRs are like performance of a product of any communication. Forget about communication, anything, right? You have to understand that this is you're trying to gaze human behavior and try to build something on top of it. At times you may go wrong, right? The other thing that you have to realize, which is very specific to communication, is that when you're communicating something, there is a chance that you're not communicating something else, or there is a chance that you are communicating silence, which is also not bad. So the idea is, whenever you are looking at the performance of a new journey, new type of communication that you're going, specifically if it's not a one-time communication, it's always good to have some sort of A/B done. But the interesting part is, be very upfront about what is going to be your success criteria of your journey. It has to be somewhere tied to the business metric or the business goal at that moment of time. CTR is possibly just a leading indicator of success, as long as other factors remain the same.
perfect? Perfect. Uh, Thanks for asking, Mridul. And to get back, so I would like to ask you, Piyush, that I have seen this research by Habitrait. It says that annoying notifications is the number one reason for uninstalls. So, what is the way out here from the principles which you mentioned? Is there a correlation between a notification and uninstalls, and how does it work?
Yeah, there's definitely a correlation. Although when I was looking at this graph, right, I actually found that it does not add up to 100. It is
Yeah,
more.
so it's more they can choose up to three responses. True.
Yeah. My guess is the apps which are sending bad notifications, which are getting uninstalled, have also other bad things. So it's not a function of just the notification is bad. It's also a function that the entire product is built in a way which may not be useful to the user. That's the first thing to notice. It's a high correlation. Let's just talk. But when you talk about causation, right? Causation is more about imagine this. If you're again same thing, if you're getting a WhatsApp notification, will you switch it off? No. So now the question comes is, how contextual, how useful you're going to be, and essentially, are you able to drive user interest and engagement over a long thing of time? Don't think of push notification as a one-time thing. कि भेज दिया चल हो गया. It's not that. If you do that, it will definitely, as I said, I think we have always this debate going over short term, long term. This is a perfect example of that. Short term, great CTRs, while business metrics will get is a different thing. Long term, you're gone. So you have to be
Got it.
very careful about this. Think of it as a long term journey. So just to give an example, if the user has just installed the app, you don't need him to bombard him. Take time. Actually, even get some to some level of trust, mutual trust between your app product and the user, where you start at least selling something. Does it make sense?
Yep.
The only important thing is very important to understand is that uninstalls are a factor of push notifications not being useful to the user. It's not a factor of push notification.
Got it. Got it. And Hamara has just asked, like, is it also important that a notification does not reduce activity on other apps? So having a concrete defense metrics or increasing notification should be in place.
Let me understand it, right? Basically, what we're trying to guess is if you send a lot of notifications, uh, will that reduce the activity? Will that take your users' interest away from other apps outside of your purview, or inside the product itself?
Reduce activity on other apps, I think.
Okay.
Is it also important notifications don't reduce activity on other apps? So I think it's apps which is outside the purview product.
Also, I think maybe if I understand it correctly, right? One of the things you have to be very, again, same thing, right? ABs and the widespread industry data on how many notifications you can
Mhm.
send, even after
Got it.
doing all the what, why, what, how, when, right?
Mhm.
There's some industry standard on how much you should send. Beyond that, it starts impacting the users negatively, not just because
Got it.
uh, you're not being useful or not, but it's also because there's a chance that it's impacting users' experience on the product itself. So it's better to have some control of the number of notification on by your side as well. Now, earlier we talked about this whole channels thing, right? Different
Mhm.
channels, different type of notifications. Here's the interesting part, and I think this is a great, this is one of the things that I can say, right? As a product manager, while you're responsible for, we try, product always has this thing that think of a bit more long term, have a long term thinking, right? Then there's the business part of the world which work on highly possibly now kind of scenario, that how is the metrics improving now.
Hmm.
The user angle is basically that the product has to ensure that you are sending push notification with a business outcome, but a long term business outcome. If that means that you put some restrictions on the number of notifications, let's say, that you can
Hmm.
send, with some obviously some backing of data and all, that essentially would also enforce that the user experience does not deride just pure absolutely on the number of notifications that they get. This may happen that, and again, what may happen is your business team may be sending a lot of notification, but you are actually prioritizing some of them, and some of them are not going, are not being sent
Got
altogether. It's like this. I think of it like this. I'll give a great example, right? Newspaper.
it. Hmm.
Now, when newspaper first page is the newspaper has 16 pages. That's example, right? Imagine you have just 8 slots, 8 notification slots. Now, when a newspaper 16 pages has to be filled, the day before, the editor would receive, let's say, 100 of pages worth of articles. All right.
Hmm.
Then they prioritize. So this is the top 10. So this goes in the first page. Then next, right? And finally, after 16 pages, next is discarded. It's very similar story here. You have, let's say, hundreds of notifications that you can think of, send, and all those sort of things, right? Which is both, let's say, business, automated, uh, user experience, hundreds of notifications. The priority is, let's say, and then you, based on when do you send, whether user is active or not, which user, you essentially send that this is the number of. Prabhu, you there? I think Prabhu froze. Or did I? Hey, Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I'm back, Piyush. I think I
Achha.
just lost you for a second.
Got
Yeah.
it. So think of it, it's the same, right? Newspaper. So you prioritize. So let's say the best slot, the first page of the slot is 1:30 p.m. in the day. Given to this. This is the best slot. So you say the best notification will go at that time. And
Got it.
then the next, and then the next, and after that everything does not. Because long
That's
term,
a great analogy.
Yeah, you're trying to balance between the number of notifications you can send and the long term, like, the ability to send notifications in the long term, because if you send a lot of notification, you'll get uninstalled, you'll get punished. So it's basically, yes, I can send 20 today, but tomorrow I'll not be able to send at all, or I send 2 today. Or this is actually, I remember the story of there's this, I don't know if you have heard that story, that if a like, there was this beggar kid who was offered 10 paise or 10 rupees, and he was always choose that 10 paise, because next time if you choose 10 rupees, it's not going to come next time. Yeah.
So there is a follow-up here from what you have answered. Sunita is asking, like, is there a way to figure out like how many are too many, and how do we measure that threshold?
Okay. Yeah, very tricky, because my suggestion is go with some industry standard on the category of your app.
Okay.
That's the first thing. Don't start with assuming the worst case scenario. You don't start with 20. You start with more conservative, possibly slightly lower than the average of your industry. So, for example,
Mhm.
chat communication, there's no limit. Send as much as you can, because you're sending all together.
Got
Uh,
it.
let's say your social commerce, certain limit. There's always an industry standard, because you don't want to make mistakes that people have already made. There's enough knowledge. Now, based on that industry standard, you start sending, let's say, some, and then you start monitoring the data, which
Great,
basically
Piyush.
increase or decrease.
And especially for the Bharat users, like where like if a few of them are illiterate, like how does a push notification work? Like Jair was asking, like how will a CTR or the push notification actually work when our audience isn't illiterate?
Yeah, okay. Slightly, digress, but I think the principles of communication remains more or less same. It doesn't matter. And those principles have to be followed not just in your push notification, but also inside your app as well. So
Correct.
if you're designing your app targeted towards people who are unable, who have not received a formal education, then
Mhm.
whatever you do inside the app will follow in the notification as well. So let's say you lead with emojis, or you are giving a lot of images, or you are creating custom notification. This essentially remains the principle, but again, the same thing, right? If the target of your product is actually a person who does not have formal education, I would suggest that you also look at the internal journey to be very sure about how you're communicating, because like, honestly, unfortunately, the smartphone ecosystem has been built very to be very close for the literate. So kudos to you if you're building an app which actually has done that. So I think you may have more knowledge than whoever asked that question. There's more knowledge on that, how to do that rather than me. But follow the same principles that you're following inside your app.
Perfect. And Sisti was asking, like, is there an automated way to ensure that the CTRs don't fall?
There are, Prabhu, I think we lost you again, but yeah, there are, definitely there are, yeah. But I think it will take some time, right? If you're a large organization, you can actually invest in building ML based models, which will say ki if today you're sending 4, tomorrow you don't send more than 1 or 2, so that
Amazing.
you can understand it, right? However, again, I'll say go back to industry reports. My suggestion would be look at when you're trying to put limits, try to have multiple level of limits. So if you have, let's say, a daily limit, you have a weekly limit, and you have a monthly limit. And then second, also think of the duration between two notifications as a thing. So if you're sending one notification today, even if you have if let's say if you have a weekly limit of 5, don't exhaust all of your limits in one day. So there are two things that you have to always monitor: one, this, and the time between two notifications. But go, like, if you're a small startup, go with industry data of your industry, not everyone, of your industry.
Amazing, Piyush. And now I would like to ask you about like other channels of communication. Let's touch upon like WhatsApp as a channel of communication and how does it work.
So, very interesting. So showing something. Is this WhatsApp?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
this is a WhatsApp notification which I received. So, like, for what it should be used, where it works, and where it fails.
I think we cannot talk about WhatsApp without talking about email. So that's a
Okay.
very, I'll tell you why. So when you talk about communication, right? See, chat is a great channel. So because it's a conversation. So
Mm-hmm.
forget about a bit about conversations. Let's say you are talking as a conversation. I'm talking to you, or let's say that you're talking to a customer support representative. That's chat.
Mm-hmm.
But using WhatsApp as a channel of communication, one-way communication, we have to understand how email marketing used to do. Right? You should send out communication or something to the user, and it used to stay there. It's in their box, not going anywhere, and it used to work great. Again, people misused it to a large extent. We can see our spam folder a lot to actually understand that, but it used to work great. Now came push notifications, which basically are real time, immediately showing all those things. Right? WhatsApp is a great combination of the two, especially the kind of communication. I'm not talking about chats. I'm talking about this communication. It has the ability to be there because whatever you send, it's not going to go away. It's going to be in chat inbox. It's preserved there. The user can go and look at it whenever they want and all those sort of things. And it has the capability of real, push notification as well because it's going to get delivered immediately. It is highly customizable. There's all those things, and it actually goes on WhatsApp, which is people use it every day. Everyone has it, and by the way, that's why it's costly. WhatsApp costly. So, but yeah, it's a great channel.
Amazing. So, Jair has follow up saying that the app is for farmers, majorly illiterate crowd. So, for that reach and engagement, how does it work? Like, what are good channels to actually reach? So, even I wanted to ask you this: while building for Bharat, are there any other channels which would be interesting to reach them?
Yeah, one channel that people have overlooked, Fit
Yeah.
Time, because
Mm.
again, variant misuse that actually startups start overlooking is SMS.
Amazing.
SMS is a great channel. Bharat users still open SMS.
Mm.
Yeah, they like you may have an SMS unread of all this. I recently was looking at my mom's phone. Every SMS is read. They read, right? They click. Uh, if you are able to send SMS and able to track the like how many people click, if you have that mechanism, it's easy to build, not that difficult. You should definitely use SMS if you are targeting them, right? Coming back to Jahir's question, right? I
Mm.
think if the app is targeted towards farmers who are not able to have a very good formal education, I think are like assuming it's not text. Your way
Mm.
is images are your way. Go with images. Create a custom notification if possible. Not that difficult to do. And communicate using images and possibly vernacular text. Because while I'm assuming when you talk about illiterate, I'm hoping that you're talking about English education, not possibly they may still able to understand some level of vernacular language. Some level. I'm not saying full, but some level of one major thing when you think about customer notification, definitely think about bolder, bigger text. So
Mm.
that's why, especially when you're talking about this pharma app, your customer notification has to be slightly bigger, more visual. And if you're even if the words that you're using, read it, make it bigger, make it custom that it actually does less words. This again, some principles to follow when the farmer clicks on it inside, it's very similar to what you are trying to communicate.
Amazing, Piyush. And so that brings us to like how to efficiently use different types of external channels. Now, coming to the thought to which you just said that external notifications fail in especially when they are not landing on a good real estate or like not able to communicate well inside the app. So now, can you talk about the different ways of communicating inside the app?
Here, when we talk about inside the app, right? Inside the app, essentially, push notifications were one level where you had some control, but now Android and everything
Yeah.
is to put some more control. App is yours. So whatever you
Hmm.
do inside the app is essentially your time. The principles still hold valid, but you're still a bit more, I'll say, like you will be forgiven and slightly more.
Hmm.
The Android ecosystem or the OS ecosystem is not there to punish you. The user is still there, but slightly more control and slightly more flexibility and slightly more customizability when it comes to inside communication. Where it actually helps a lot and where I found the importance a lot is specifically, and I'm assuming when you talk about in-app communication, I'm hoping you're not talking about like normal homepage experience or a normal app experience, talking about
Yeah.
some kind of overlay, some kind of
Communication. Yes. Yeah. True.
something.
True.
So where it helps you is basically if you're able to have a, I'll say, contextual journey. I think contextual communication to the user while they are on the app. So you should not be intrusive on this because the user is inside your app now. It's very
Hmm.
important. They are inside your app. So now you have to aid to their journey.
Hmm.
So it can be both, right? You can possibly, when just to give an example, you can actually ask the user what you want. If let's say give an example, user is wandering here and there, and you realize, what, the user is not able to make some flow or some way into the app. So then you can ask the user saying, would you like to do this or what do you want? For example, I think some apps do this. The user is wandering here and there, not spending some time in that. Do ask the user if they want to change the language because they are unable to understand. Example,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Things like that. So, but what you have to understand specifically about this in-app communication is it has to aid the journey of the user.
I mean,
It whatever the journey they have come, because they have come to your app now. So you aid in their journey. It can be something, that journey has to be something that is useful for you as a business and the user as the app, inside the app. It should be useful, but help in aiding the journey, helping moving the journey forward.
got it. Got it. Like when we talk about inside the app communication, like the first channel which I would like to ask you about is about in-apps, and then about managers. So where can they be leveraged?
When you think,
So that
when you say apps, are you talking about this bell icon inside the message inbox, or are you talking about normal pop-ups?
so normal pop-ups.
Okay, great. Normal pop-ups are useful when, what I've seen is usually
Mm-hmm.
when you're trying to announce something, for example, right? Let's say,
Got
and again, contextual and all, but let's say the user
it.
directly lands and you have a great offer going on, or
Mm-hmm.
great sale going on, or great thing going on, right? Let's say, imagine, right? Facebook, you open Facebook and there's Facebook Live going on, the Facebook event, right? Or something like that. So showing a pop-up there, right? This is highly useful for the user to take the user to a place where you think it will be useful to the user, and obviously as a business you want it. So that, possibly because the journey has not started yet, you can put it on top itself. But
Mm-hmm.
as the user progresses into the journey, you have to be highly contextual. So
Got it.
let's say the user has just signed up for an event. Again, taking an
Mm-hmm.
example, right? Possibly sending asking the showing the user a strip of what other things they need to do to be ready for the event, for example, right?
Got it.
Is something that helps them.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I'm thinking of pop-ups. But again, yeah, be it pop-ups or be it nudges, message inbox is slightly different. That I'll tell something
Mm-hmm.
interesting about. But be it pop-ups, be it nudges, the principles remain the same. Nudges,
Perfect.
at the only difference I've seen in pop-ups and nudges are usually adding to the helping the action that the user wants to do.
I
Nudges
mean,
usually take the user to an action or another action or another place where you want the user to go, as well as it will be helpful to the user. So nudges could be, for example, click here because user wants to search, or you want the user to search, or user is not able to search. So you say, okay, click here to have voice search. Example. And on the other pop-ups would be, okay, you search something, but there are other products here. Why can't you look at it? that can be a pop-up. Again, very loose examples because the form factor here is defining this. But overall, this pop-ups and nudges almost fall in the same category. The message inbox is slightly different though.
Mm-hmm.
Inbox is a place which is like your, it's a holy grail of communication. I'll tell you how. Why? It's a place where you can actually decide as an app to keep the communication which is one useful to the user, but at the same time it's always there. The user can always go there and see the inbox, right? Message this bell icon thing. The great example, I'll tell you, I was talking to a user and they said, yeah, I get all this push notification and these are offers and everything, but they go away. What if, and this is coming from a user, and was a great insight because normally you don't take the user's solution for this, but it's great, yeah. Why don't you copy the push notification into the inbox itself? Because then I know that I can go there. If I actually are great, you have a great product which is being very useful to the user to push notifications. You should copy that in your, let's say, message inbox also, because it remains there. The user can see, and now they have a history.
That's interesting, Piyush. Yeah. So that's how message inbox and in apps or managers would differ, which is very well put. So I would like to take your perspective on few journeys which I have put for this event to see how inside app communication. So this I can see about this is looks like a first time experience, like for a user for a very big fantasy gaming app like Dream 11. So what do you think about it, and what stands out for you?
So this is great, right? Because I'm guessing this is Dream 11, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the user just onboarded and trying to nudge the user. This is nudge, right? If not wrong, or this is
So
vocab.
The first is an app, so it's like a onboarding journey which is not true.
Sure. So same, right? The user came to it. Now the action that a user wants to take is basically, like if they don't do this, there's no usefulness of the app. So the next part is you tell the user do this next. The second one is this nudge is essentially aiding or helping the user to make the decision faster.
Amazing.
The one will be saying, you did this. Now this information is helping me aid. This will help me that decision faster, right? In fact, this, if I'm not wrong, I think my current startup is actually working with you guys to actually AppSort to figure out this inner communication in my current startup.
That's something interesting actually, because you come from a Flipkart, which has a DNA to build great internal systems.
I used to work.
You used to work at Flipkart, which has a DNA to build great internal systems, which is the great buzz around the product circles actually. So why did you decide to actually consider to buy or use AppSort instead of building it by yourself?
Yeah, there are nuances to this answer, but if I have to just say it's one thing, it's because we are a startup and we cannot build everything that we want. Oh, it's not that we can't. We have other things to do. We have another. Building this is not our business.
Got it.
This build versus buy is a very interesting because as companies get bigger, they will always always try to see the trade-off between, and there are huge big teams which will do all the financial calculation and everything and say here, okay, what is cheaper and what is costlier. And that there's usually two principles that come into play. One, do I need it now? Right? If I need it now, if as a startup I need it now, even if I have a great engineering team that can build it, but it will take 3 months for them. I would rather use something else. Someone who has been perfecting it over time. Right? The second, so, but let's say if I think I'll need it 2 years later, imagine, I know I'll need it 2 years later. Possibly then I have to take one box. Maybe I don't need to buy it. I can actually build it because now it's in my roadmap. The second thing is how important I think it is, and will it aid in my business for a very, very long term, right? Uh, let's say
Piyush, we lost you for a second. Looks like the power went off. So please drop by any other questions in the comments, and we'll make sure that every question is answered before this the end of this session actually. So I believe there are few questions around. Okay, messages are not being read. Sending vernacular SMS or notification definitely.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah,
Hey, sorry,
Piyush, you are back now.
I just had a power cut here. Really sorry.
No worries, no worries. Got you.
I've just
So we
my hotspot. The power has come back again. No, it's not. Is it audible? My hotspot is not that great, I think.
Piyush, I can.
Sorry for this
hear you
disturbance. Oh, you can hear me? Great, awesome. Okay. So basically, the first simple check, right? If it's long term, yeah, I think you can't hear me. Is it okay?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, so long term versus short term. I want it now versus I want it later. Right? Second is how important it is to me. So when I say important, how I also have to say here how much I'm going to use it for, and how long term I'm going to use it. Okay. Will it make sense to invest in me with a substantial lower cost versus doing something else? I think a great example is data centers versus AWS. A lot of companies used to have this data center thing, right? Then everyone moved to AWS because the kind of things that they need, AWS provides out of the box, and then they're keeping it. But as most of the companies, when they go bigger, they will realize that they need this, and they will start building their own data centers.
Got it, Piyush. So let us take a look at one more journey, like which is inside the app, and maybe you can comment your perspective on it. So this is a carpooling app called QuickRide, which has this journey.
Yeah. I used to love QuickRide. Yeah. Sorry, it's gone dark again. Like internet. Hold on. I think I can. Actually, hold on. Yes. This is bad. 1 second. I'm trying to see if I can switch off my here. Is this better? I'm not in regard since. Hold on. I'm trying to. Yeah, this is better. Okay.
Yeah.
I put my phone's flashlight on top front of me right now.
Perfect.
Hello.
Yeah, Piyush.
Yeah, sorry, yaar. Very bad internet. Bad thing. Sorry, yaar, for this. Yeah, QuickRide, yaar. I used to love this app. But yes. See, one of the things that you will see here is as soon as the user says, "Do you want to cancel this ride?" Yes, no. Then suddenly there's this pop-up that comes up with saying not finding a ride, turn auto confirm. So if the user said no, I think I'm assuming the user said no, right?
Yeah. No, the user has actually cancelled the ride, like which is a yes. So the user has cancelled a ride, and he's shown a pop that like is there a problem actually?
So the user cancelled the ride, I'm guessing, because after a long time, they finally did not find a ride, they cancelled.
Yeah.
The next one you see is this pop-up is saying turn auto confirm, which basically means the next time the user will take the ride, they don't have to, come the app to actually confirm if some. So it basically, I'm a rider. Someone offered a ride to me. I have to confirm. Again, yes, I will go with this person. But if you select auto confirm, it will get auto selected. So confirm. So that means there's no like the app will take an action on behalf of me. Very useful, very contextual, because at the right point of time they put this communication about the next time.
Perfect.
So this is more for, like, in-app communication, which is does perfect there, right? Next time. And then clicking on it, this basically takes you to a landing page inside app, this whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
which will,
Mm-hmm.
give you control over what all information that you can do. This can actually have been a great notification also. I'll tell you how. So let's say you missed a ride while inside app. At
Mm-hmm.
the same time, a push notification, if you're outside, push notification is sent, which says you missed your ride because you did not accept. Not a
Got
no notice. Not a,
it. Fair. And you talked about consistency as a principle, right, Piyush? Like, where do we see that in action? When you talked about first principles, like about usefulness, like about being contextual, and also like about consistency. So, where does actually it matter in here?
yeah, consistency with that. The other part of consistency was being forward looking, right? Continue the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And consistency with continuity. So again, very simple, right? I think we just before that we were talking about FTUE, first time user experience.
Yeah.
I think.
Piyush, I'm not
Hey,
able
sorry.
to hear you,
Very,
Piyush.
very bad experience today.
No way. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Now I can hear you. Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, Piyush. I can hear you now.
Yeah. No, so I think consistency with continuity. We talk.
Hmm.
Okay. So consistency with continuity is basically
Mm-hmm.
right. So the great example is basically the first time user experience. So the user comes and then you
Mm-hmm.
get the user to do certain things which is useful for the user to do. But you are consistently talking about the same thing, which will go to help, right? We talked about a team level though. Create a team and then
Yeah.
create a team and then add players. Even if, let's say, the user
Mm-hmm.
comes tomorrow, or the push notification that is sent tomorrow, or the WhatsApp communication that is sent tomorrow, has to be regarding this. You have to be
Perfect.
consistent across channels and be continuing, give a continuation of that effect. It's not like it in one in inside
Uh,
communication you're talking about, okay, build a team,
I'm losing you, Piyush.
and tomorrow you're sending dream level, so I build a football team. This is basically, oh my god, sorry, hold on.
Let me just check the comments meanwhile. Definitely, you can get the link to this recording for sure. Yeah. Perfect.
Is it better now?
Yeah. Better now, Piyush. That you're back.
Normally the power does not go, but I don't know what's happening today. But anyways. Okay, so imagine
So
the same thing,
you
right?
got yeah.
We talked about consistency and continuity.
And
So
continuity,
if you're
correct.
talking to inside the app about something, your
Mm-hmm.
next communication cannot, irrespective of the channel, cannot be about something else.
Got it.
Be it first time user experience, be it, let's say event journey. So let's say someone signed up for an event,
Mm-hmm.
or let's say someone, it was just about to sign up for the event and you stored the event inside the app. The next
Mm-hmm.
communication cannot be about another event. It has to be about the event that the user did not complete. It has to be continuous. So in fact, in lot of in almost every e-commerce startup, be it D2C or be it multi e-commerce, right? There are great journeys like cart abandonment journey, or
Mm-hmm.
checkout drop off journey, where say user did not added something to cart but did not buy. So next communication is about why don't you buy it again because you just added to cart. As long as you can do that, you would be able to drive a lot of user, basically users' interest towards your business and finally convert to your business metrics.
Perfect, Piyush. And like I have few cases put out to you, like for vernacular or Indian apps, for to see the entire journey of how it is being done. So this is an example of the share chat, the notification which I received, and then I
Yeah.
tap on it. I land over to this Pandaji page, and then when I am not interested in the content, I close it, and I am guided towards exploring more, I believe. So
Yeah.
this is what I
So
can see from a user's perspective.
let's look at the first two images.
Yeah.
Then first, obviously, Indian users, vernacular, too many emojis, colorful, and even a custom notification. It's a custom notification, by the way, because normally notifications are the images on the left, the icon, a brand icon is on the left, it's on the right in this.
Mm-hmm.
So custom notification stands out, too much text, too much emojis, high CTRs. Right? Click on it, you land on a page which is actually the same as the same. It's not like you're landing on something arbitrary. पांडे जी आप कैसे आप यहाँ पे भी पांडे जी का वीडियो खुला है ठीक है One, you actually talked about a great thing, which is the ability to cross it out. So while we are talking about push notifications, right? One mistake that at times I've seen being made is the push notification leads to a dead end or a place where you can come back. So the only option that the user has is basically close the app altogether. It's your CTR, like your push notifications are catchy. It was imaged and all. The user clicked on it. When they landed on this place, let's say they did not like it. Imagine.
Got it.
If you don't give them a way out inside your app, so if they cross would not be there, or possibly let's say somewhere inside below they write go to home or something like that, right?
Amazing.
Give some way out for the user. Otherwise, the other option is basically close the app.
Perfect.
Right.
Fair. And on the third image, like once he has closed the app.
Once they close our landing page, the same, right? Then you can let him explore. I don't think it's personalized to that. I'm hoping that the homepage of ShareChat itself is personalized enough key. It does not need to be contextual to the notification.
Got it.
It would be, but possibly maybe if the user crosses it, something of the similar format could have shown. Possibly, I'm again not saying this is. I think ShareChat being the product it is, they would have done enough experiment to say that this.
So true, and this is another example of a regional OTT. So my subscription expired. I opened the app, and I'm targeted with this particular inside app communication.
Interesting, right? I'm guessing this OTT does not allow you to watch videos to the full extent if you don't pay. So even when you open the app, if your subscription is expired, if you don't do this, the user there is nothing the user can do inside, possibly. Right? So showing it at the beginning makes sense. This movie is coming, I think November. It just came.
Yes, yeah.
I'm guessing again, very highly time-based contextual. Click on it, and then click on it. It goes to all the plans that they have. Right.
Yeah.
Good copy, good communication. Possibly, I think the only thing that I don't like about it is it's too much on face. What could have happened is better. One other thing is while you do this, if the user could have explored some of the videos that are there before actually showing, it should not be instant. I'm guessing let the user spend some time inside the app and then realize that it can be done and then show.
And the other thing, like I do this always actually, whenever I go to a cart, like just to see like how brands actually communicate. It's like, so this is a transaction of mine on Timesprint. So like I have abandoned a cart and I have got this SMS and then I have moved on to the next part of the journey. So yeah.
No, same thing here. I think we just talked about cart abandonment.
Yeah.
Right? Same. You cancel transaction. They sent out a SMS, so they used another channel to continue the journey because they felt for them, their case, SMS works better. And then that SMS clicks on, just continues the journey back into the app.
Sure thing. So, like, how do you think that the future of communication would look like, Piyush? Because like an high intent user, like who has just dropped off a transaction, is it better to do it inside the app or to continue the journey outside the app? Like if there is a capability to extend it, like what would be the future of communication?
Yeah, short term and long term, right? Short
Yeah.
term, may channels like WhatsApp will become better. I think WhatsApp is going to be a highly conversational channel, which will going to be used, even if it's costly, because
Mhm.
that channel has given great results. So no cons there, right? Push notification will start getting. I think there are a lot of vendors out there which are already helping out a lot of startups to actually
Mhm.
deliver better communication, deliver better PNs, templatized, customized, to have better delivery rates and CTRs. So they obviously they will get better with, but since there are more control coming by Apple and Android, so again, see, there's a saying, right? Sometimes regulation is a good thing. I think this is the same. Regulation is a good thing. It's not always like, I'm sure you don't want, you don't want to receive all those calls, right, and all those
Cool.
something
Got
you
it.
say. But that's why regulation is a great thing at times. It helps the industry understand the nuances of using too much any
Got
resource.
it.
It's a resource, right? At the end, you regulate a resource, it gets more optimized. So that's the short term, right? Long term, yeah, I think a couple of new channels will come up.
Mhm.
Virtual reality is a big thing. I'm sure there's a lot of things that are going to happen. ठीक है. Communication will definitely go there. So you will have, let's say you are in virtual reality world, and there's this person who runs to you saying, "Here's the ad." There's this movie I really love, Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Mhm.
Very interesting movie. So this is an animation movie where you are in the movie, and then some person comes to you and say, "Here's this notification," or "Here's something like that." I think VR is one frontier that will come up. Wearables and IoT devices another one.
Mhm.
So, different form factors. Wearables are already in the rise. You have watches and all those sort of things, or even earphones, right, on the rise. IoT devices, I believe, right. I don't know if people know about it. Amazon actually released a smart microwave in US. I'm not talking speakers or microwave, because
Mhm.
they believe that this might be a great communication channel, as well as a device which helps the kitchen. So kitchen is the place
Mhm.
where grocery gets ordered and all. So it's a great to actually have a smart device there.
Perfect.
So I read that article that they actually tried a lot of devices what to put it in, and then they finally put it in microwave. That's the whole thing. But yeah.
And yeah, Piyush, so like it's been amazing. And uh, there is one last question from Mohit here, like who is asking, how do you manage the vernacular SMS or the notifications?
Okay, I don't like, maybe slightly bad, but varied wide question. But I'm hoping the question is more around how do you like especially vernacular, because there are multiple languages. How do you do that?
Hmm. Yeah,
Like that is the one
that could be the
nuance
question.
where
True.
I know the pain of it.
Mhm.
One nuance that you can put up. See, two things. One is obviously take user preference in the
Mhm.
app when the app is being onboarded, which language they prefer, and use that language for your communication as well.
Mhm.
Be it SMS, be it yeah, PN, WhatsApp, whatever. The second, which actually helps a lot, is having location of the app. Where are they? Although with Android, I think 12 onwards, getting location permission is getting tougher. More
Yeah.
and more. So then ask the user, yeah. You can ask the user the preference.
Perfect, Piyush. So, before we end, like I have two last questions for you. So, one is about tying communication channels to the user life cycle. So can you talk something about how can we use communication channels for longer term user retention?
Yeah, very, I think, wide question, but
Why?
think again. Let's try to type it. Look at the whole journey of the user, right?
Yeah.
Or product
Mm.
acquisition,
Yeah.
activation,
Mm.
retention, revenue, referral. I think
Correct.
are most common thing that I can think of right now. But yeah, same acquisition channels which
Mhm.
are outside your product, the
Mm.
user is still not active,
Mm.
communicate in a way which is more like in acquisition, your communication, your marketing is your communication, your
Okay.
brand, your how you're building a brand, being
Mm.
consistent in what you say,
Mm.
being showing up your value prop more and more, your key value props.
Mm.
Uh, just take caveat, and because I actually we discovered this in my startup last week, is
Mm.
what you believe your value props are and what the customer thinks their value props are may be different. So follow JTBD there. Job Provident works great. See what problem you're trying to solve for the user. Communicate in that way because you're trying to acquire. Activation, as a user comes in-app channels work better.
Mm.
Give one flow. Take one or two flows max where you try to activate. Be sure about what your activation end is. Try to be consistent across channels on that activation journey. Don't try to push everything to the user at a time. Retention is basically getting the user to active a product. I think we put a lot of time in push notifications.
Yeah.
Let's do that,
Yeah.
right? Revenue journey works better. Look into continued journeys of abandonment, checkout drop. One framework that I usually use is imagine this. Uh, think of the perfect user journey.
Mm.
Then think of places of touch points and assume that at every touch point there's some drop. User goes away. Try to so basically it's like this, right? Let's say user is going, some users are going, someone dropped off. There's a fork. Drop off does not mean going from the app. It can be different journey itself. In the app, they're doing something else.
Got
Something else that
it.
spoke or photo. Your job in communication across the internal outside is basically get the user back on track,
Fair.
right?
Fair.
Revenue, we talked about it. Revenue is being the metric. I think referral, let's leave for some time. Referral is a very vast topic. This is,
So,
but yeah.
can you summarize the most important takeaways from this session?
I still believe that fundamentals that we talked about, right? I think there's nothing more. See, all of this, what we talked about, is more or less common knowledge to some extent, right? It's not. It's more about how you use that knowledge
Use
to
it.
actually, right? The principles still hold. Be useful, be contextual,
Mm.
be available wherever the channel
Mm.
is. If the user is not on LinkedIn, then you
Mm.
don't communicate on LinkedIn. Simple, right? If you're using on Facebook, imagine if you would have we would have done this event on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Fair.
Be user where available where your user is. If it's your app, great. In-app works better. If it's on their phone, push notifications are better. As long as you can actually do it. If you get out, like if people uninstall the app, you can't do anything about it.
Mm.
And finally, be consistent and give continuity.
Amazing, Piyush. Thank you so much for joining in today, Piyush, and sharing your thoughts and answering all the questions out there. And before we close, like anything around the community, like which you can tell about, like about products for Nexstar PN, like what motivated you, or like where do you see this community?
Yeah, so I think we were talking this some time back, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I actually come from a tier two town, and like for me, the real digitization journey will happen when the access that we have, like someone like me and you, having in sitting in metro cities, the kind of access that we have to products and services are as easily accessible. And when I say ease of access, I'm not talking of just giving internet. It's also about do the users trust those products so that they can use them as easily accessible, both from the product side, basically distribution
Mm.
side, as well as acceptability that end users are actually accepting that product for themselves, is when the real digitization happens. And I think that's something very, coming from that mindset, right? It's something that I would love to be a part of. That's where I am.
Amazing, Piyush. Thank you so much. And for people who are attending this session, along with the recording, a coupon code to apply at appstar.com/app analysis to get rewards up to $3,000, like the personalized report, like especially for your app. Can be availed. So Piyush, thank you once again, and super awesome, and looking forward to host you again, probably this time on results.
Thanks for a wonderful host here.
Yeah. Yeah. See you, Piyush. Bye.
See you guys. Bye.